Okay, guys. So normally I usually do a podcast where I'm usually just talking off the cuff with different guests about my, thoughts and kind of just, perspective on whatever technologies what we're talking about. But since we've had so much going on lately, I figured I would do something a little bit different and maybe take a chance to maybe illustrate some of my mental models so you can try and get an idea of where I'm at. Giving all these interesting, corporate related coins launching, Google's involvement, Facebook's generalized interest in crypto, to sort of understand where the ecosystem is. So right now, like let's sort of like think of it as a timeline or a scale, right? So or basically think of it like a gradation scale, really, from like light to dark. Dark being centralization, for the sake of the metaphor, and then of course the light part being more open centralization. So we'll have like our middle ground here, right, where it's just kind of just in the middle, not quite centralized, not quite decentralized, but and then so that we'll use that as like our starting ground. Okay. So on the farthest end, we have Apple and Goldman, who work together with the Apple credit card, Apple Pay wallet system, all that sort of stuff. And I noticed this might be backwards on my end. If it is, excuse me, I'll turn the paper around to the camera after I've finished. But let's say Goldman and Apple are here on the furthest end. They're looking to use machine learning, privacy-centric like data models so that they can abstract away user information and identifiers, but so they can still do or have some ability to say we don't know what's going on with our customers' information. However, we are able to pull insights because it's important as a business to be able to grow, especially at scale with over $1 trillion market cap. That's substantial. So Apple Goldman teamed up to essentially monetize using machine learning their like private data models and to create this really closed loop financial system. And you would think what Facebook created was kind of more on the centralized side, but in actuality Apple and whatever it is the partners are the ones that kind of get the most of this pie here, and the whole point of that is to be centralized, right? So then on the other, a little bit further up in the scale, we have like Facebook and Libra, what are trying to basically create a permission chain that will eventually, hopefully, they claim, evolve into a more permissionless chain of like validators that are basically processing transactions in the form of blocks. The way they do so is a little bit strange in the way that they sort of abstract away out the kind of the canonical nature of blocks, wherein everything is appended and hashed to each individual block, wherein information doesn't come in a canonical sequence. It just transactions come in as necessary, either verified by this centralized pool of validators, and then they're added to a block. And the sequence itself that it comes in is not necessarily important, nor is that stored to the block itself, to the header. So that being said, it makes it a little bit more decentralized than Apple and Goldman, but a little bit, but still centralized in nature that it has like multiple validators and parties, right? That's cool. And then so we're going to move a little bit further up the scale now. We're going to be who's going to meet us here in the middle, and it's starting to look like that's going to be Google, who kind of just like we know what we're good at, we know what we're doing. We're going to partner with these guys, and I hate to be the one to plug this, but it is true. Chainlink, disclosure, I don't own any, don't want to own any. But Chainlink is an asset that allows you to basically take real world data as a form of like an oracle, like, and have that be utilized like interoperably across multiple different chains, or that's the vision, technical vision. And so now, so Google is basically partnering and saying, hey, we want to be able to provide you the data, excuse me, for these oracles, but we don't necessarily want to jump into crypto altogether, but we do have a lot of data. And that's part way into it because Chainlink is built on top of Ethereum, which itself is an open, decentralized system, right? But obviously, it still depends on Google's centralized access to data and information. And it's progress from Facebook and Libra, but it's not quite all the way there. And obviously, who do we have here at the very end of the spectrum here? It's going to be what Ethereum, etc., Bitcoin, all these other open financial systems. So, in essence, we have Apple Goldman here on the farthest centralized end, where we have Facebook and Libra who are working on this permission chain, which, the entrophic nature of regulatory regimes probably always remain permission, but, we'll see what happens there. And then we move over further to Google Chainlink. We're trying to like use, abstracted tokens that have like its own unique functionality to pull in from centralized data resources, which feed back to the most open of all systems, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and things like that that are working like interoperably. So these are the real trusted systems. So this is how you should outline your mental model when thinking about the likelihood of success for these systems in the future.